Hello, hello, hello. I'm Andrea Stevens,
And I'm Jeanette Mejias, and we are Webs Women.
where exposure brings strength. Hello, my friend. How
Hey,
are you?
hello. I'm doing fabulous. How are you? So good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. What's
Yeah.
happening? What's happening? I missed the last episode. I
You
missed the
were
last.
missed for sure.
I
I'm
know,
sure
I
people were
know.
thrown off when you were not the first one getting on the mic.
Did you? I didn't even listen back. I need to go listen back.
I
Did you
can't,
say hello, hello, hello?
no, I can never do that any justice. I did say hello, hello, but not like that. But no, it was really great to have Marta on. She missed you, and
Mm,
we'll definitely have to bring her back at a later time.
yes, for sure.
Yeah, but she's pretty cool. Got a lot of cool stuff happening,
Good, good.
and it's good to see you, my friend. So, what is up?
I mean, life is up. Life is up. Life is down.
Yeah, well,
Life is spinning round and round.
I do have to say, I know the last time we were on the mic together, you had the vulnerable moments and really
Mm,
declaring like where you're at and
yeah.
and I think that takes a lot of guts and courage, and I think you just I think some things just come natural to you because you're so real, and I think when you're real, like with who you are,
Yeah.
um it's kind of like, well, this is who I am and here I am now. But I wanted to talk, just as a continuation of the last time we, you know, talked about the 3Ds, right? And I know that um I think it's important for folks, especially who are facing co-parenting
Yeah.
uh, with a partner or an ex. Oftentimes people, paint the other, however, vice versa, whatever, spouse as like the bad,
Mm,
person.
yeah. Yeah.
And I would love for you to kind of like maybe talk to that. Has that been your experience? Like what, what can you say for those who are trying to co-parent um and really just help folks understand that no matter what has happened between a couple, that no matter what they try to put forward, it didn't materialize. What do you say to folks who like still are in this space? Like, you have clearly moved on and the spouse has moved on from that, and you're
Uh-huh.
doing the best you can as co-parents, but like, how do you get those people outside looking in who are still stuck on the spouse is dot 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 dot? Like, how do you like address that, or like, what are your thoughts to that?
Okay. You
Over
put
to
me in.
you.
I know. And I see that face of yours putting me on the spot. Um, I think in divorce, I think everybody, okay, in marriage, everybody is your own individual person, right? And I think everybody holds space for certain things that they've dealt with their whole life, right? So there's certain traumas that you hold on to that are there. There's experiences that maybe you don't even tell anybody, right? For years, or you never tell anybody, right? Or maybe you just tell your spouse and you never tell anyone else, right? So did you really get through those episodes? Did you really get through what happened to you? You know what I mean? And so I think we take into a marriage whatever we experienced in our past. Maybe it was our parents' relationship, right? Maybe it's our parents' divorce. Maybe it's deaths in the family, multiple deaths. Maybe it's abuse. Maybe it's child abuse. It could be anything, right? And I think that everybody takes into a marriage what they take into it, right? And the
Mhm.
hard part sometimes is that sometimes we just don't get through on our own, right? Because you have to, the happiness, when I say happiness lies within, and that's what my mug says, and I believe that to my core, it lies within you. But if you don't accept all the things that have happened to you, it's very hard to be with someone else. And all of that weight is put on the other person. Right. So I can speak on my marriage, right? I think that my ex-husband, I think he had a lot of baggage and trauma that he held on to for a long time and didn't address. I think my father's death played a huge part in my emotional state through the years. But there's my parents' divorce played a huge role in
Mm,
my life and in my marriage, right? So, and I think that my ex-husband, his parents never got divorced. So he didn't see that side of what it is. He didn't see what it's like to not co-parent correctly, right? And like my parents fought. They argued, they fought. My dad was bitter. There was a lot of stuff going on there that
mm,
I saw, my brother saw, right? And so I always said, if this ever happened to me, it's not, I'm not, dude, this isn't going to happen. Like, I can't let this happen, you
mm,
know?
mm.
So I can say that when people get divorced, so everybody's quick to see, ooh, what happened? What happened, right? Oh, they got divorced. Was it her? Was it him? Did he cheat? Did she cheat? All this shit, right? And then everybody kind of puts this own spin and their perception on what other people go through when they have no fucking idea. Let's be honest.
Mm,
Like my ex-husband has a good heart and he is a good human. Hands down, he's a good human. He has a good heart.
mhm,
That he did not cheat on me. None of those things took place. At
mm.
least not that I know of, but I know. I honestly, in my heart of
Yeah.
hearts, I don't ever think that. I don't think he ever did that. I never went down that road. Never, ever, ever. I did not address other guys ever. I don't think he addressed other girls. Even either way, I was never really a like I was, I said my piece for certain things if I thought something was inappropriate. He said his piece if he thought something wasn't right. But other than that, we had, if somebody looked from the outside in, it looked like we had no problems.
Mm,
And
mhm,
the problems, I think, were between the two of us in our battles outside of what we dealt with before we were married. And then during our marriage, there was a lot of, there was negativity, right? There was like just you can't get through certain
mhm.
things, whether it's sticking up for yourself, whether it's allowing people to walk all over you, whether it's, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of with me, I'm very like, say it like it is. Don't let anybody walk all over you. Fuck them. This should not bother you, even though certain things, and for me, I'm really hard. Like I'm hard.
Well, how important do
But
you feel like it is, like, if you've moved on, right? So, we find many couples who been through the divorce stage, but
right.
they have been able to co-parent, when sometimes we find, "Hey, we get along better now than we did
Hmm.
when we were married," but then you have those outside sources, whether it's family or friends.
Hmm.
"Oh, like, you still, speak
Communicate
to
and this,
this
yeah.
jerk or
Hmm. Yeah.
or this," and
Yeah.
like, how, because I feel like people don't, like, if you see 2 couples who are able to make something work, even
Yeah.
if they're separated or divorced, but they can have a healthy co-parenting relationship,
Hmm.
I think that mostly miserable people will be putting shade on that, which makes kind of no sense to me. Because
Yeah.
wow, I'm really happy, Andrea, that you guys arrived at a really good place because that's all you want for the sake of the child. And I just find
Right. But that takes time. That
it
shit does
does take
not come. It will not and does not. Because what happens with what I've experienced, right? What happens with divorce, we didn't do anything to each other that was like so hurtful. I mean, maybe he believes that I hurt him intentionally, but I did not ever hurt him intentionally. He can tell that story all day long. I never hurt him intentionally. I never wanted to hurt him. But I think when you go through a divorce, automatically it's a slap in the face. It's they did this to me, especially when one person still wants to stay in the marriage and the other person doesn't.
yeah.
And that is what you find most of the time, that one person is willing to stay and stick it out and the other person is not. And
Yeah.
then you have that, there's some bitterness, there's anger, there's distrust. All that shit kind of comes into play that never did when you were married. That's the thing, is when
Yes.
you go through the divorce, these things happen and these emotions come out that were never there when you were married. There was no distrust, never. No distrust until we started to go through the divorce. There was no anger, right? Until we started going through the divorce.
Yeah.
It was the conversation of let's get divorced was clean, simple, clear cut, easy. Never not even more than 3 sentences were said. And it was agreed upon immediately. There was no back and forth. It was what it was. And later on there was, well, why didn't we try, right? But at some point one person is typically done and is processed at first, right?
Yeah.
And that happens. And then so after time and after your, the divorce is final, which for me hasn't even been that long as far as
Yeah.
paperwork goes, as far
Yeah.
as the paperwork.
Yeah.
No, I think I processed the divorce while I was in my marriage. I believe 100% to my heart that I let go. I let go. And I said, I mean, I moved. I mean, if you couldn't tell I was moving away and separating myself, it was very difficult for someone to not see that if they, you know what I mean, being in the
Yeah.
situation. But I just think that I never had any anger. I was never, I didn't.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me. I think it was more hard for me, I think, to have someone that I trusted for so long not trust me when I
Yeah.
am loyal to my fucking core. I would never have done anything to hurt him because he's my son's father.
Right. But I think
And
that also comes from
so
hurt too. You know what I mean?
I think it comes from hurt too, absolutely. But I think as time goes on, I can sit and have a conversation with him fine right now. I don't have
Yeah.
I could have a year ago
Yeah.
without having any. There's nothing. I had no emotion either way of I didn't have like this whole happiness to see him. I didn't have this, oh, I don't want to see him. I didn't have any of it. Just none of it was there. It was very just smooth sailing for me and my emotions because I processed so much beforehand,
Mm.
but I think it takes time for both people to be in the same place
Yeah.
where they can communicate without anger, where they can communicate without distrust, where they can communicate for the better of the child, right? And not everything else kind of is pushed aside. I know that we will get there because we were initially friends first. We started out as coworkers almost. You know what I mean? So we worked at different companies, but we worked together. Our organizations worked together. So we worked together, and we talked all the time. So I think it's I'm pretty sure. I mean, right now we could have a conversation and it's easy. We're not close.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not close. And I think that I had to separate myself because he was more emotional than I was.
Yeah.
So I had to separate myself. And I think that happens. One person is usually more emotional than the other, and I think the time is a factor. I
Mhm.
mean, my parents divorced, they did not talk to each other. There was anger, hatred, and everything else under the sun in that for over a decade,
Wow.
and they even with 2 kids, they kept that shindig going. I heard it on both sides. I heard the bitterness, the anger. I heard all of that. And I think that deep down, like my father really regretted a lot of that as before he died, he talked about a lot of this stuff.
Mm.
That, it wasn't even, was it really worth it for all of that shit? Was it worth all the anger? And so I always said, that's not going to be me. Like, it's just not going to be me. I won't allow it. Like,
Mhm.
I will accept whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen. I will be true to my heart. I will be true to what I say. I will try. I will stay if I can stay and see if it works. Did I try hard enough? Probably not.
Mm.
Did I? Probably not, because
Mhm.
I probably just had enough of the situation and,
Yeah.
and I'm comfortable in my own skin. And I don't know. I mean, I know me better than anybody else knows me. Right. So I know what I can handle and what I can keep going with or what I can't,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and I know in a situation when I'm done, I'm done,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I think sometimes, um, folks hang on in
Hmm.
relationships, whether they're married or not married,
Yeah.
um, hoping that, okay, this is going to be the moment that the change arrives. I think
Right.
we have to really trust. I think we have to trust our gut, our
Hmm.
instincts or intuition.
Yeah.
I think, you've been really good at that. Like, you just knew what was ultimately, uh, being led by your heart, but also feeling in
Yeah.
your,
But you have hope. I mean, you do have hope for a lot of
yeah,
years. You have hope if you stay that long,
yeah,
but if someone
absolutely.
doesn't hurt you, intentionally hurt you, and I'm talking intention is clear. You make a choice,
Mm,
right? There is no fucking mistake. You made a choice. I don't want to hear one thing of, you know what I mean? Like you made a choice in the end. You may say I was drunk or I was this or I was that, but in the end, you made a choice,
mm,
right? When you go to hurt someone, when you
yeah,
know it's going to hurt someone, you made a choice.
yeah,
Whether it's in a marriage, whether it's a friendship, whatever it is, you made a clear cut fucking choice and you did it, right? I mean, so if you go and you hurt someone, you might feel bad about it afterwards and you may be like, I shouldn't have made that choice. I made the wrong choice. It is what it was. You know what I mean? You can apologize up and down. Can you come back from it? I don't know. It's your situation. It's your relationship to deal with, but in with my marriage, there was no intentional hurt.
yeah,
There
no,
wasn't. And
and
no matter what he says there, or I say, like, there was no, neither one of us wanted to intentionally hurt each other. We did not. And we never did. It's
I think
until,
I
you
think it's
know,
important for people to understand that there are instances where
mm,
there isn't hurt involved. It's just a matter of we
right,
just can't keep doing life together anymore.
right,
Because it just
right,
doesn't make sense at this time.
right.
Sometimes people outgrow each other and it happens.
Yeah.
Like,
But that is not the norm where people just
yeah,
say together, hey,
yeah,
let's
no, it's not the norm. It's like,
It's not. Now it was with me in the
you're an
beginning though.
asshole.
And my
Right.
discussion was like that in the beginning. It was very mutual for the, when we discussed it, when we planned it, when we said it. I think when the ball started turning, the wheel started rolling, all, you know what I mean? I think when everything started happening with attorneys, with the
Yeah.
house for sale, I think that's when, oh shit, right? The oh shit starts to come into play. Like this is really happening,
Yeah.
and so I think then emotions start going a little wacky. But the only way to really get through for your children is to respect the other parent. You might not love them, but respecting them is a whole other ballgame. It's the only way to manage a good relationship for your kids is if you have respect for the other one.
Absolutely. I love that.
And and that's it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the bottom line. That's, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk bad about his father
No, of
ever.
course not. No.
Ever, ever. Even if he would have hurt me intentionally, I still would never, ever speak
Yeah.
on that with my kid. Never, especially with my kid. Especially with my kid.
Yeah.
I may go cry in the corner by myself, or I might go bitch and complain to my friends, but my kid is not going to hear that shit because there's no reason,
Right. I love
you
that.
know, you know? So,
Well,
and you
I
just want
think,
your kids to be okay in the end.
yeah, and I think that's a really healthy attitude. And, I think that oftentimes it's so important to just adapt those, healthy choices and attitude towards, life change because it is what it
Yeah. Listen, I'm not saying I did it all right. Let's be very clear. Very clear. I'm not saying that I did everything right and I did not do everything right in my marriage, right? I mean, we talked to death. Oh, a lot. Our
is.
communication, we had a lot of communication. We just couldn't figure out
Yeah,
how to go back to we just couldn't figure it out.
yeah,
And it is what it is at this point. And
right,
yes, we talked in circles. Yes, we fed off of each other's, emotions. And of course, and like I said, I did not do everything correct. I'm trying to make sure that it's correct for my son. That's the only thing I can do at this point,
yeah. Oh,
is deal with any traumas that I've had, deal with all the emotions I've went through,
yeah,
go, like not just I'm not jumping into some relationship after, you know what I mean? Like from one to one. That is bullshit. I think you have to process what happened even after it's done.
yeah, absolutely.
Even if you think you did it, like I think I processed it during my marriage. Absolutely. but there's no way I would have. And now it's been, I mean, it's been, wait, how long? Where are we at now? I mean, it's been a year and a half since we said, let's get divorced. It's a
Mhm.
year and a half. In that time frame, I could have dated someone, but I would have never jumped into some relationship like
Right.
full blown, let's move in together. No, no, no. I don't even feel that way now.
Mhm.
I feel like um my child has to be okay.
Yeah.
So whatever I do,
Stability is emotional stability is so important.
yeah. And even if I would have dated someone in a year and a half, which I did not, but if I would have, I wouldn't have had my son know about it.
Mhm.
Even if I would have, because I'm not going to do that to him. He
Mm.
needs to be settled with understanding how his
Yeah,
new normal is with
absolutely.
his mother and he needs to see his mother strong and confident and clear on what her path is and not relying on anybody else.
Mhm.
And the only way for my son to respect women in general is to see what his mother has done on her own.
Mhm.
That's how I feel.
I love
And hey, I could be living in a tent for all I care. But as long as I am on, if he sees me taking care of what I got to take care of. I mean, he's never going to live in a tent, let's be clear, but
our
still,
children. I always say our children are always watching.
they are.
Always. They're watching everything we do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I really appreciate you, kind of unpacking that a little bit more because I felt like, sometimes, you know, um, there's just certain things that have to be more clarified. And I think it's not a blanket statement. Divorce, we know, is not easy.
Yeah.
Uh, I, clearly, you know, um, I had the great fortune of meeting Gordon, and I mean, I thought he was always a great guy, and just because
Mm-hmm.
we're together doesn't mean that I would treat him any differently. At the end of the day, what's most important is that you both find you're happy and
Yeah. And
to
peace. I mean, there's got to be
right, and
peace.
have that peace and
Yeah.
and keep life moving because that's what it's all about.
And keep the kid happy. Do
Yeah,
whatever you can to keep the kid happy.
yes, absolutely, 100.
Besides all these video games he plays.
I gotta cope somehow.
Although I will tell you, he plays with his father. So how
Yeah,
can I say that? I mean,
right.
when it gets a little crazy with his friends, it's one thing, but he ends up, that is there's something there that he can do with his
Yeah,
dad
kind
that
of
to
thing.
me, you know what? Yeah, I mean, to me,
Yeah,
that's bonding time. They're
yeah,
talking, you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
listen, I'm happy with my life the way it is right now. I mean, I'm happy. I hope he's happy. Um, you know, like I said, I don't think there should ever be a battle over the kids either. Either
Yeah,
even with time spent. I
yeah,
mean, he could go and stay with his father as much as he wants, whenever he wants. Yes, did we have to go through the court and all the bullshit with the whole what in time and this is what the schedule and this is this? And I'm like, there doesn't need to be a schedule. Like, whatever. Whenever he can see him, he can take him. He can take him for a month if he wants, whatever it is. Like, there is no, I will never stop my child from seeing his father. It's just not healthy. So if any woman is out there listening to me right now and you keep your kid away from the father because you hold the anger and you hold the animosity and you're holding all these grudges and everything else, I'm telling you, it's the worst thing you could possibly do because eventually your kid is not going to want to be with you. Eventually they're going to see those things,
yeah.
and down the road, you're going to be pissed off when that kid says, I'm fucking out of here because it's going to happen as soon as they can. You keep them from the parent, they're going to go to that parent,
Mhm.
right? And they're going to run from you. And you're going to be the one that they hold a grudge against. You're going to be the one that they say, you didn't let me see my father. I mean, I'm just saying this. This is vice versa. This is for men too, right? That
Right, right,
wouldn't
cool.
let, wouldn't let, that have full custody, wouldn't let, the mother be around. It's only going to cause problems later on. That's all it's going to do. So that is one thing that I will say. And I've experienced that with my friends.
Mm,
You take your kid away from the father,
yeah,
it is not healthy for them. And
right.
you are the one causing a stink, a commotion. And to me, it ain't right. It ain't right. They
It
need their father.
experience is always gonna be your best teacher, but also,
Now, if
You
they're in
know?
prison or they got drug problems, that's a whole nother story. Or they're
Right,
abusers, right? Now
right,
that's
of
a whole nother
course. That's
story.
just yeah.
But
But I think that to your point, as adults, we want to make sure that children are not exposed to adult conflict that's between
right.
adults that has nothing to do with the child. And sometimes it's difficult for folks when you're kind of in in the thick of things, right?
Hmm.
To be
Yeah.
aware, like this is not healthy. What am I doing? And so I think if nothing else, this message is a message of just, um, be very aware,
Yeah.
how you are because our children, the way you react to
Hmm.
your partner, your spouse, because our children are watching. And if you're
Yeah.
together, great. And if you're not, just learn to co-parent and really make things,
Just try.
at least,
And
yeah, just to
and
make
there's
it
a give
better.
and take. Like everybody needs to understand there's a give and take. There's
Yeah,
a give and take. You have to sacrifice something. You
absolutely.
can't have it all, and don't get me wrong, my child has heard me say things. He's heard his father say things. He has heard some things that we were like, oh shit, right?
Yeah,
After. So there's mistakes that are always made, but in the end, respect needs to be had. That's number one. Number two, try to shut your mouth if you can shut your damn mouth. Three, make sure that the parents both together spend as much time with those kids as they can. And you need to co-parent properly and let that happen,
yeah.
And then what were you just saying for? There was another one. What did you just say?
Mhm.
You said something. You said something important. But it's, you can't keep everything from those kids. They're going to hear everything. Your kids are going to hear it.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
just you don't want them to see you,
yeah,
upset to either. I mean, not upset, angry and bitter at the other one,
yeah,
because now you're putting things in their head that they don't need. Their perception of their parent needs to be what they have, the relationship that they have with them. The perception isn't what you create for you can't create that. You talk shit about a parent, right? If I talk shit about him, my son's going to hear it. And that's programmed in his head. So
mhm,
the perception is what I just told him.
right.
Right. And that just can't happen. So
Yeah,
I just say it's hard. It is hard as hell, but you got to pull it together. That's all. Pull it
yeah.
together. Be an example. Pull it together. And that's my story for today.
Well, I thought those really great thoughts, Andrea. Thank you so much for always, you know, shedding truth, and using your own life examples. Hopefully, whoever's listening in had some great takeaways. I know I did. And remember, everyone, you're listening to Webb's Women.
Where exposure brings strength.